Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30. He's going to go 10-5.
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is Friday. We made it to the end of the week, and it is looking pretty nice out there. Welcome aboard. We'll have Alec Lasley along here in just a second, joining us. We'll talk about what's coming up on the recruiting scene. Trey Jackson Davis, of course, one of the biggest names on that portion. Plenty else to get to. John, who all we got on the program today?
We'll be getting a stop from Zach Osterman and then Derrick Jackson as well.
Absolutely. And looking forward to talking about, we might talk about Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban and Deion Sanders. And oh my. You guys were all worried about NIL causing friction among players. And I'm like, why? It's life. It's the coaches you got to worry about, baby. That's what's hilarious. We'll get to that as well. But Alec Lasley's with us. Once he gets on here, I think he may have gone to get some coffee, as I did. Not a problem.
It's a mystery right now. So we, in our, I'll go ahead and pull the other. There's two Alec tabs in. I'm assuming I don't know which one works if only one of them does.
Can you hear me?
But there we go.
Yes.
There he is. He's here.
For some reason, my initial one got kicked out. Probably Jim working his magic on this Friday morning.
No way, baby. It's you messing with that camera is what it is.
No. How you doing?
Be great. Yeah. Love to be when we can see you. That would be awesome. Alec Lasley joining us. He is on assignment down in New Orleans as he's heading off to actually a friend's bachelor party. But I forced him to be here today, and they had started last night. So that's why it's going to be a little fun. It's going to be more fun. I was hoping we could have some vignettes. You'd have a little taste of NOLA for us, man. A little vignette here in the morning.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's tomorrow's plans. We have a Gator tour happening here in about 30 minutes. So
get that camera up, baby.
You get me before I go on to the Gators.
Yeah, Joe Dirt, man, a little Joe Dirt. Maybe you can. Well, you're already with someone, but maybe you want someone in your party can meet someone like what was Fromm? What did the guy change his name to in that? Oh my God, it was so funny. But the lady went to the Gator farm. Don't get your finger bitten off is the long story made short, I guess.
Yeah. Let's fingers crossed on that one. No pun intended.
So is it one of those? Are you going to one of those places like that where they show you where people were feeding the gators or something?
No. So we take a nice little boat over into kind of the Everglades area, the swampy area, and then towards the end of the ride, you're supposed to see some gators, and then I've been on it before. Most of the group hasn't, and then that's why I planned it. So at the end of it, you get a baby gator that they bring on the boat and let you hold it and obviously spend some time with the baby. But no, I mean, it's fun. It's obviously not something that you typically see in the Midwest, so it's a nice change of scenery, change of pace.
Do you go out on one of those airboats?
Yep.
Oh man, and you flat across the Everglades on one of those airboats. Oh my God, that's the best part right there.
Yeah, too bad I couldn't do the show from there. Right, that would have been.
Just go in circles, baby. Just fly that thing around in circles. There was some show that used to be on when I was a kid that would come on, and they're on one of the scenes. They're flat across the Everglades in one of those airboats, and it always just looks so cool.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely a fun time. I mean, we have good weather here too, so it should be good. It'll be hot and humid like it typically is down here, but still a fun time.
Golf, got a golf plannings in there as well. What's
Most of the group does not play a lot of golf, so that's not on the agenda. But we have some other fun things
that's funny
planned for the weekend.
Well, that sounds good. It is and the reason you're able to do this is because it's a light weekend as far as the AAU circuit goes. Nothing scheduled as they prepare for next week's events, the Memorial Day Run-In Slam in Fort Wayne and the Nike EYBL event in Louisville. But this weekend, recruiting's still going on. We've got the combine that is happening up in Chicago. Obviously, Trace Jackson Davis not able to participate in anything after getting COVID. And that only solidifies to me what I said a month ago in my tweet, that I fully expect Race and Trace to be back for Indiana. Now we're just waiting for the announcement.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think at this point, right, he's not going to be able to put into the time that he probably wanted to, not only with the measurements, not only with the 5-on-5, but I think the biggest thing that he's now going to struggle with doing is obviously the individual team workouts. And that's a big part to not only what the combine is, but especially this time of the off season for a lot of the guys that do try to obviously make that jump into the NBA. And I think he's just not going to have the time to kind of get ready for that. Obviously really hasn't been doing a lot of physical activity over the last 5 to 7 days to actually prepare for that. So at this point, I think it kind of shows that there's really not a whole lot he can do to kind of improve that draft stock. And at that point, he's probably going to end up returning, which I think for him, who knows if that was the initial decision that he wanted to make. But I think at this point, there's just way too much question that's kind of going on in the background for him to actually fully be prepared to go out there and perform at his best. And so I think I agree with you. He does end up returning to Indiana. And obviously you look at an Indiana team that's now kind of fully prepared to not only take on the Big Ten, but be a top 20, top 15 team in all of college basketball heading into next season.
Yeah, we can't make that determination for certain yet because it has not been announced, of course, but this has been my position the entire time. So now we look forward to, all right, if that ends up being the case, we can do a little prognosticating because since there's nothing else going on this weekend, if that ends up being the case, this Indiana team is going to be built pretty solidly. The only question still for me remains around shooting. But other than that, this is going to be a pretty good team. Defensively, they should be good, as good or not better. And offensively, still going to be better. But the shooting aspect is still a question mark.
Yeah, I think obviously that's, the biggest question mark, and you lose your best three-point shooter with Parker Stewart as well. A lot's going to be kind of handed to Miller Kopp and what he can do, how he can perform, not only, with the ball in his hands, but off of any spot-up opportunities. I think you will see some more, not design plays, but maybe some more design schemes fit around Miller Kopp to be able to get him open. But I mean, you have, assuming Xavier Johnson is fully back and playing at the level that he played to end the season, that's a playmaker that you didn't have for the first 2.5-3 months of the regular season. And then you throw in another guy like Jalen Hood-Schifino, who's going to be able to take the ball off of the dribble and create some more opportunities. So all in all, you have a lot more, play creators on the roster that you didn't have for this past season. And I think if Trace Jackson Davis comes back, right, that just opens up so much more offensively for the entire roster. But at the end of the day, I still think you're going to need, if Trace does come back, you're still going to need a guy like Race Thompson to be able to step out and hit that outside shot at a higher level than he was able to do this past season, or else you're kind of be stuck in the same kind of offensive mold that Indiana was this year, with kind of pounded into Trace, get double teamed, kick it out, and potentially get some open shooters that way, which I don't think is going to be the best part for Indiana moving forward. So I think a lot is still going to kind of revolve around which of those options, whether even if it's Jordan Geronimo or Malik Renault, which one of those guys are going to be able to kind of step out, open up the floor a little bit, and give Trayce Jackson-Davis, if he does come back, a little bit more room to operate there in the middle of the paint.
And, CJ Gunn is a guy that we don't talk about a lot. Don't know how his first year is going to translate, so there's no point in putting pressure on him to be that guy. He's potential. But also I think that Jalen Hood-Schifino is someone who's going to start, but also he's not going to score a ton of points, but he can score. Xavier Johnson obviously can score. At the end of the season, he was bumping up to 18 points a game as your point guard, which is phenomenal. But I think the pressure will be relieved off of him. I think it's going to be relieved off of everybody, to be honest with you. I think the pressure is going to be relieved off of every position, including the wings, where you had Parker Stewart, Miller Kopp, who so much was hoping for, but it just didn't materialize. And I think that started to manifest itself worse as the season went along. But I think that this team is set up to relieve the pressure more on positions than last season was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this roster is going to be built a lot more towards what Mike Woodson really has kind of been looking for. You're going to have a lot more guys who can create off of the dribble, which is a huge thing, obviously, not only in basketball in general, but in college basketball especially. The more guys that you have that can kind of get into the paint, whether it's making a play for themselves or their teammates, Indiana just has not had that on the wing, on the perimeter. And you're going to get that. And, I see the comment there. Yeah, Tamar Bates is going to play a big role in that because he's a guy who showcased at times this season the ability to kind of get his own shot, create for himself. But all in all, I think the backcourt is still a huge question mark in my opinion, regardless of what Trayce Jackson-Davis does, just because you have a lot of guys who are going to need to step up who haven't really played those significant roles yet. And you also have a guy like Xavier Johnson, who obviously has had his ups and downs throughout his short Indiana tenure, both on and off the floor. So that if Xavier Johnson's able to play, able to stay on the floor, and able to play to the level that he did to end the season last year, that's going to take Indiana to a much different level, regardless of what Indiana does in most of those guys do around him. But at the end of the day, you're still going to need some shooting. You're still going to need Miller Kopp to take a huge step up in production, which I think you will do. And you're still going to need guys like Tamar Bates and like I mentioned before, obviously, Jordan Geronimo, Malik Renault, even a guy like Trey Galloway to be able to really step up in their production, whether it is shooting or whether it's just creating there on the floor for Indiana.
Let's say Trayce Jackson-Davis comes back, which we both believe is going to be the case, and you have Race Thompson as well. What's Malik Renault's role going to be?
You look at him, obviously a five-star guy coming in, a guy who is going to be able to contribute to some point right away. But now you kind of take a step back, and he doesn't need to take on full responsibility and full offensive load that he probably would have to take a large part on if Trayce Jackson-Davis was ending up staying in the NBA draft. So he's a guy where you can kind of let him take the reins a little bit from a Race Thompson and Trayce Jackson-Davis and learn from them, not play 25, 30 minutes a game, and kind of learn his way into the college level, the college system that Mike Woodson wants to run. And I think it would be extremely beneficial, not only for him next year to be a lot more efficient because he doesn't have to force a lot, but just be a lot more efficient in his Indiana career because he's going to get that development and that opportunity to wait kind of just a little bit of extra time, learning from guys like Race Thompson and Trayce Jackson-Davis, who have obviously proved up to this point to contribute to any roster they're on at a very high level.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. This team is just solidly set across the board, and the second unit is going to be a lot better last year. Last year, we saw Coach Woodson implement substitution patterns that sometimes left you scratching your head. This will allow him to do that a little bit more if that is something he continues, because the talent on the bench has been raised substantially.
Yeah, it still comes back to what level of consistency they bring. That was the biggest thing with that unit last year, right? I mean, even Jordan Geronimo, who didn't prove to kind of play those consistent 15, 17 minutes a game that I think a lot of people thought he would play until late in the season, especially there in the last kind of 2 to 3 weeks of the actual season that he performed there. But it's going to come down to consistency, like I said. I mean, you have a lot of guys who have not proved that they can play at that level from game to game and even half to half yet. So where you do have a lot of options on the bench, you do have a lot of skill on the bench, it still comes down to whether or not they're going to be able to do it night in and night out. And I think that's going to be something that Mike Woodson's going to have to kind of play with and tinker with when it comes to his lineups still throughout, I would say, the first half of the season, if not going into Big Ten play, just to get that consistency from a lot of these guys who, like I said, and like you said before, just have not been in that moment yet.
We've got to take a quick break. Alec Lasley's with us before he scoots out to pet the alligators down in New Orleans. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Courtroom Sports Grill down in Bedford. Make sure you stop in. A great place to catch a game. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting when does the PGA start again on TV?
Not till 1, I think.
Oh, why? Yesterday
Unless
it was all day.
Well, on what is it, ESPN Plus or whatever?
Yeah,
that starts, I think, at 9, 10 or something. But
yeah.
no, I don't think the actual ESPN coverage starts until 1 or 2.
I bought ESPN Plus yesterday, but I haven't figured out how to get it into my YouTube thing.
Awesome, thank you. Appreciate it.
I don't know what email I use. Jesus. You at a hotel?
No, I'm across the street from our Airbnb. Just at a coffee shop. Getting stuff for the rest of the group.
How many people are in the wedding party?
7, including the bachelor and groom.
That's not too many.
Yeah. No, it's a good.
I don't know what it was. There was a lot of weddings that I'd not been a part of, but gone to, where there was like over 10 people in the bridal party, on each side. I'm just like, why? Why do you need that many people in your wedding party?
No, that's too many. But to each his own, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
What else is happening, Alec?
I mean, not a ton. Still a little bit of kind of that dead zone and that dead period, right? Without any of the live periods coming up. You have that next weekend at the end of May here, which will be good. I think kind of needed just because, Indiana's putting out some offers, but now they're going to actually be able to see some of these kids a little bit more.
Hey, while I got you, I found the offers page on the Hoosier.
That's I need to look into your account and go through your login, because that's part of the stuff that I can't do with my login. So
yeah, it's nuts. You can find it under football recruiting. There's an offers list, but under and when you click on that, it brings up a tab that you can switch over to basketball.
Yeah.
So that just needs to be cloned.
Yeah, I don't have that access with my login, so I just need to go through yours and make sure I
10
can do it
seconds.
there.
Here we go.
Through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at K-Bello Restaurant, located in the heart of downtown Bloomington, right on the square. Visit K-Bello to experience the taste and tradition of the Italian heritage right here in Southern Indiana. All part of the Endeavor Hospitality Group and all under the Wow Club. Make sure you go join the Wow Club. Pick it up at your Apple App Store, Google Play Store. Just go sign up. It's free. You can use that to order steaks from BB's Market, all kinds of things we'll talk about later. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com with us right now. Alec, I was looking in the 24 class or 23 class. There are 18 offers out.
You're talking 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them happened, in the last month and a half with the 2 live evaluation periods. But, if you look at what Mike Woodson has done probably over the last, 2.5, 3 months, a lot of those go to shooters. A lot of those go to guys who can make shots on their own and create for themselves. And not a lot go to big men. He's Indiana's pretty much all in on 2023 forward Arrington Page from Georgia. They're trying to make a little bit more of a push at Xavier Booker as well. I think that's a recruitment that's going to be a little bit difficult to win for Indiana.
Now, why is that? Everyone asks, why is that? He's an Indiana kid here in Indianapolis. Why is that a hard one to win? The program is really taking a turn towards NBA style of play. The success is ramping up, the excitement in the state. Why is Xavier Booker's recruitment not going Indiana's way?
Yeah, I mean, a large portion of that is just them not prioritizing him about 4 or 5 months ago. Not a lot of schools did. It was more so over the last 2 months that during the live evaluation periods that Tom Izzo and Michigan State always either had Tom Izzo at the games or always had an assistant at the games, if not both. And when you look at what Indiana did, they sent their entire staff to watch Arrington Page. They brought Xavier Johnson there to watch Arrington Page. They sent at least 2 assistants to 2 more of his games. And that did not even include going down to, obviously, Orlando for the first live period for Nike UIBL and sending 2 assistants to 2 of Arrington Page's games. So they sent a clear message over the last 2.5, 3 months that they want a guy like Arrington Page, and they just aren't fully invested into the recruitment of Xavier Booker. I think a large part of that is just due to the inconsistencies that he showed in the high school season. A guy who has all the skill and all the ability in the world, but the motor has been questioned at times, and I think he's answered those questions over the last 2 live evaluation periods, and that's why you see his recruitment not only ticking up, but you see Indiana getting back involved. And this is not to say that his recruitment is, fully over and dead set on a Michigan State commitment. I think it's going to be tough to get him away from Michigan State when it's all said and done. But there's a reason why the Dukes and the Kentuckys are starting to reach out to him and starting to get that conversation going, because you don't get many 6'10", 6'11" guys who can knock down the 3 and be as athletic and versatile as he can on the floor. It's just been the motor with him and the ability to play hard consistently that I think rubbed some teams the wrong way when his recruitment really started to get going during this high school season. But like I said, I think he's answered a lot of those questions, and that's why I think Indiana and some of these other teams are starting to get back involved again, because he has shown that, hey, I've heard what you said, I've taken that to heart, and now I'm trying to work on that and get better at that motor, because when he's playing hard, he's one of the most difficult forwards to guard in all of the class of 2023. He just needs to do that consistently.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that Indiana did not go all in on someone like that, even with the inconsistencies in the beginning, because just to see it through. I know that Indiana is and will going forward be a nationally recruiting team. As I look across these offers, I know some of the names that they're Cohen Carr and Arrington Page that you just mentioned. Two of the most sought after names that they're after, Greenville, South Carolina, Marietta, Georgia. Georgia's an area they've really been pummeling for recruits. But Indiana is not really been prioritized, it seems. At first, I thought it was because they just got into the game late as a staff, but they're not prioritizing the Indiana players, it seems, at least not at this moment.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this, a couple weeks ago. The biggest reason for that is you look at high school basketball in the state of Indiana. Again, this could rub some people the wrong way, but a lot of the top talent is not staying in your normal local high schools, right? They're going to prep schools. They're going to more national competition, a much bigger level of competition than what you're going to get just playing high school basketball. Obviously, you still get that with certain teams and certain conferences in the state of Indiana, but there's a reason why they're going after Jalen Hood-Schifino and Xavier Booker to a certain extent is just not to that level. And you have a guy like Malik Renaud, who they went all in on because these guys are playing nationally ranked teams with guys who are going to be starting from day one at the college level, who they're playing in not only playing against, but practicing against every single day. And there's a big difference between the level that you're going to get with a Malik Renaud from day one and a guy like Xavier Booker from day one. And that's not a knock on Xavier Booker. That's just basically bringing things into a reality that you're going to get a lot better if you're practicing day in and day out against 5-star talent. And if you're practicing against non-5-star talent, there's going to be a major difference in what you're going to be able to do when you get to the college level. And you're only going to get that if you look nationally and you kind of break out of this mold of strictly sticking to Indiana. And, we've talked about this again before too, but that's what Archie Miller tried to do. He got a lot of the quote unquote local guys, and they weren't able to produce, I think, to the level that a lot of people expected them to. And he was not able to get the national guys, and that was the downfall for him, obviously, with some other things included. But you need to be able to recruit nationally if you're going to be able to win at a high level in college basketball. You look at all the teams around the country that are doing it, and Indiana was a little bit behind the game there when it came to national level of recruitments. But they're getting a lot more involved in that, and that's only going to bring them back to a much better place here in especially the 2023 class, but even going forward into the 2024 class as well.
And for those who think that NIL is going to control the game, while it definitely is impacting it, here's a situation right here. I'm pretty certain that Indiana would be able to match any NIL offer for Xavier Booker, per se. But if he chooses Michigan State, I don't think it's going to be because of NIL. It's going to be because of the relationship that you just talked about. So that kind of dispels the worries of NIL completely controlling these players.
Yeah, and it's going to be, exactly what their pitch is to him. And talking to Xavier Booker a few different times, the main pitch is, look what we did with Jaren Jackson. And they're comparing, the coaching staff is throwing that name out. And you look at what he's doing in the NBA now. But even more so, even like a Xavier Tillman, who was starting for the Grizzlies in the postseason this year. They do a lot better, Michigan State, with stretch forwards, kind of hybrid forwards, versatile forwards that Xavier Booker kind of fits in, and Indiana hasn't had that. So even with the Trace Jackson Davis or a Race Thompson, much different skill sets than Xavier Booker, and Indiana just hasn't been able to showcase what they would do with that type of versatile forward. Michigan State, on the other end, has, and they've done it with multiple different guys, whether or not they put them in the league or make them an all Big Ten forward or anything else.
Yeah, looking forward to that. But I'm thinking, and I'm all looking forward to Indiana as a program next year. Thinking last year it was fun for the fans. They've got to see a win over Purdue at home, which was gigantic. They got to see the team qualify for the NCAA tournament, play well in the Big Ten tournament, then qualify for the NCAA tournament. And now it's time to take it forward and really move into the next round of the NCAA tournament and see what they can do. And I think that they definitely will have the pieces in place to do that. I just don't know how far they're going to be able to go until we see how the shooting is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the shooting is going to be a lot better this year just because they have the playmakers who can create off of the dribble, which results in better shooting if you're going to be able to create better opportunities for these shooters. But, I mean, the biggest thing with Indiana is, yes, they have to build off of last year, but they just have to maintain that level of consistency now moving forward, which is make the NCAA tournament, win a game in the tournament, and then whatever happens after that happens. But they can't, regardless of what the expectations are this year, they can't look too far past that because they haven't obviously been able to do that and bring that level of consistency. In order to get back to the top, you need consistency year after year, and Indiana has not been able to do that, and that's the biggest step forward for them. Make the NCAA tournament, win a game, and I think that's another successful season at this point, right? We're in the middle of May, so expectations and everything are going to change when you get to October, November, and December, and when you start Big Ten play. But at this point, I don't think you really need to expect a whole lot different than just make the NCAA tournament, maintain that level of consistency, and then just improve a little bit from what they did last year.
Yeah, looking forward. It's going to be fun no matter what. And the Big Ten itself is going to be greatly different. Of course, we'll have to wait till the season comes around to really see, because last year what people thought was going to be the case did not turn out to be. But next year, the Big Ten, what are you expecting the Big Ten to be like next year as far as teams with the loss of Kofi Coburn for Illinois? But Michigan is getting their big guy back.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think you look at a team like Michigan State, who, they lose Max Christie, who decided to stay in the NBA draft this week, and they're a team that I think a lot of people expected to have Christie back and be atop of the Big Ten. They're going to struggle, I think, a little bit. Obviously, I'm never going to kind of point against Michigan State and Tom Izzo, because somehow he always finds a way to get that team playing at a good level, especially come February and come March. But then you look in Iowa, who's going to be losing Keegan Murray as well, and Jordan Bohannon, to obviously kind of staples of what that program's been like over the past couple of seasons. And you still have a question mark of how good and what step Chris Murray is going to actually take. Illinois, obviously a team that loses a lot from last year, and hasn't really gained a lot through the transfer portal this offseason. So it's going to be, I think, a very, very wide open Big Ten. You look at, obviously Michigan gets some players back, but Purdue loses a good amount of talent, whether it was to the draft or the portal. So it's going to be pretty wide open, and I think that's why, regardless, you still have to temper some expectations for Indiana. But if Trace Jackson Davis comes back, I think you look at Indiana as a team that not only could easily win the Big Ten, but if they finish anywhere less than maybe the top 2 or 3, right? That's going to be, I say air quotes here, but a little bit of a disappointing season, just with you kind of looking around the Big Ten and looking what teams have lost. and looking what Indiana would potentially bring back.
Yeah, I'm not ready to stamp them as sole, Big Ten champion yet because of what Michigan has coming back, and because of the questions of shooting. But I definitely, without question, they're a top 3 team in the Big Ten, and who knows, it could be the best. I'm not saying that it can't be. It's the shooting that I'm. But what you do in the Big Ten doesn't mean squat. It's once they get out of the Big Ten and into the national tournament where these Big Ten teams have really failed, and they've got to get away from playing Big Ten style basketball and start playing a freer, more challenging style.
Yeah, man, that's been the biggest downfall for the Big Ten in the NCAA tournament, because they cannot adjust to the way the teams play smaller forwards, more hybrid forwards, versatile stretch fours, which the Big Ten doesn't see a whole lot of. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest downfall of the Big Ten, not being able to adjust. So no matter what team wins the Big Ten, the question is still going to remain, how far can they go in the NCAA tournament? What can they do in the NCAA tournament? And are they going to be able to actually adjust to if a mid-major throws guys who are 6'6", 6'7" at their max and spreads out these bigger, more traditional big men in the Big Ten Conference? Because that's been the biggest issue with that conference for the last 10 years now.
Next week, where are you going to be? Are you going, or we'll have people up in Fort Wayne, or the Hoosier.com will be in Fort Wayne and Louisville for the
Yep.
Nike EYBL, right?
Yep. Yeah. This weekend, not a whole lot going on. Everyone's kind of gearing up for Nike EYBL coming back to the Midwest, and there's some other smaller events going on here in Indiana as well. But yeah, next weekend, kind of that next step for a lot of these guys, and we're going to see a lot more kind of shape up when it comes to maybe some of those guys in the middle of the pack that Indiana has offered that they're trying to see a little bit more of. So, I know we're looking forward to getting out there and seeing a lot of those guys as well.
Looking forward to it, brother. Have fun petting the Gators today.
I'll send you some pics. Hopefully I don't get my my finger bitten off, but we'll have a good time.
Have fun, brother. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Brought to you by Cabello and the Wow Club. Make sure you go sign up for the Wow Club. It's totally free. It's your Apple App Store or Google Play Store. You can start signing up and earning dining dollars and discounts today. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington or...
All right, a couple topics that you can hit. One of them is...
Hey, I'll see you guys later. I appreciate it.
See you, Alec. Enjoy your bachelor party.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
I'm trying to remember my train of thought. Oh, Indiana baseball giving up 30 runs to Iowa yesterday.
I've got that down, man. I can't believe it.
I remember I was going to sleep last night, and then a few hours before I saw they were up 13 to whatever it was. And then I saw that they gave up 30. I'm like, you start letting fans pitch? I mean, what?
That's funny. Yeah, I got to pull it. What the hell happened in that game?
And then Jimbo Fisher as well.
Oh, don't worry. That's why I had you pull that.
Now, it's not going to be video. It's just going to be audio because I don't want to get copyright, but it'll be fine, though. Hearing it is the same as seeing it. It's not like there's anything really to look at. He's just talking.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's great. And I want to
we played it yesterday on Jerry's show.
I want to run the whole thing.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. It's hilarious.
I mean, he kind of repeats himself some, but then he keeps adding little jewels and he just, oh man,
like when he calls
he basically called him out
a narcissist.
He basically called him a cheating son of a bitch.
And he's talked about the other coaches that have worked with him.
But he is. which he is, and we've all known that. And that's the thing. He's finally saying what people like me have been saying.
Yeah.
There's a reason they're good, man. They're not. Do you think they're not cheating? They're cheating their ass off. You think they're beating the crap out of teams that are cheating? Ha! You think Auburn wasn't cheating? They got caught cheating. Where am I going? What am I looking for?
Maybe Indiana baseball.
Yeah. Gee whiz. I mean, what? I mean, how does that happen?
All right, here we go.
Qualified buyers on all 2017.
What do you need?
Nah.
Okay.
Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Hope you're having a great Friday. We're getting you started for the weekend. It is absolutely gorgeous out there. And I'm all about it. Indiana men's soccer announced their schedule for next season. They open with the reigning national champion, baby, at their place on the road at Clemson. How about that? That's a Friday, August 26th, 7 p.m. at historic Riggs Field on the Tigers campus in South Carolina. Both programs announced yesterday. I saw this in the Indy Star. This match opens IU's 50th season in program history. And if I went down and read the accolades that they've achieved in those 50 years, it's staggering. Staggering. The college, they've been in the playoffs 40-something times out of those 50 years. So that means they hit the ground running, being good. That's pretty difficult to do. That's why they are what they are. A juggernaut of a program. Looking forward to that coming around. IU baseball right now having a little trouble. They had been on a tear. They had been winning games, winning series, and had worked their way up. They just need to win a game in this current series with Iowa to pretty much lock themselves into the Big Ten tournament. But my God, what happened yesterday? I was not watching and briefly caught bits of the game, and Indiana was up, I think, with the 17th home run by a freshman phenom. And I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but shattering Indiana's freshman home run record. And then all of a sudden, you see this final score, 30-16. Whoa! What in the hell? A baseball score getting up like that. That's, first of all, the 16's a high number for a team. And then you have a team that scored double that in the same game. I mean, what's going on in this game where you've got 46 points or runs being scored? I mean, there wasn't a lot of great baseball on either side there. Man, I'm trying to pull a story up on this. It's just crazy to see what all went happen in this. But my, oh my, I still think that they make the Big Ten playoff, the Big Ten tournament. But man, that's one you want to get out of the way. Happens. Every team has one of those games every year. the fact that it's coming while they were on such a stretch is kind of crazy. We have not talked about the fact that 2023 4-star defensive back Dave McCullough has decommitted from Indiana. No surprise at all, of course. He's still in high school, was going to Bloomington South. His father, of course, left Indiana to take the position at Notre Dame. And Dave McCullough announced on Thursday that he's reopening his recruitment, decommitting from Indiana. He was enrolled at Bloomington South High School, like I said, this past season, but announced earlier this week that he would be transferring to South Bend, Indiana, St. Joseph's High School. It's where McCullough's dad, DeLon, is running backs coach up there at Notre Dame. And so no surprise that both brothers are going to be going. And pretty big hit for Indiana. That was a gigantic hit for Indiana, losing Coach McCullough, because you don't just lose a great coach that's now at Notre Dame. Obviously, you lost 2 great players to the program. So that was a triple hit that Indiana took. That's a major hit to take for a program, but you just get past it and you move on. I'm sure that Coach Tom Allen knew that was coming. And again, want to thank Tom for joining us the other day. John, you have something to say?
No, they didn't lose Dason McCullough. He stayed on the team, or the recruiting class.
We'll see. We'll see.
And we will. And he made it very clear, at least according to his social media, back whenever all that was going down.
Right. He did.
So we'll see. I think he's in a situation where he will probably feel it out for a season. Because obviously you have the one-time transfer rule. If you want to go somewhere else and you don't like it at Indiana, you can do that first year and then go somewhere else.
And he may have looked at Notre Dame's linebacker room or whatever position he's going to play and said, hey, they're a little full right there. Let me wait a minute. Let me wait a minute, get something in, and then transfer.
He may be the next Micah McFadden at Indiana.
I'm going to save Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher and Dion for the end, because we've got 2 open segments, right?
We'll have 1 open segment at the end, yes.
Oh, just 1 open segment at the end? Okay.
Yeah.
But and how much time we have left in this segment?
We got about 9 or 10 minutes if you want to play Jimbo Fisher. You don't have to.
Let's bust it out, man.
All right.
We can talk about it more later, but if you haven't heard this clip, this is amazing. This is Texas A&M's Jimbo Fisher after Nick Saban called out Texas A&M, saying they had bought every player on their roster. He said that Jackson State paid a player $1 million last year, and Deion Sanders responded to that. Those 2 guys make commercials together. Deion has refused Saban's request to talk in private. He said, no, we'll do this publicly. And apparently he has apologized to Jimbo Fisher, who they used to work together. They were on staff together. But man, let's just go ahead and listen to it. Then we'll go back and check out the flavor of it. This is Jimbo Fisher responding. I should have had you get Nick Saban's comments.
Well, you essentially just laid it out. So, I mean, you get the whole setup at least.
Yeah, he's basically said, of all people, accused Texas A&M, which I'm not saying that they're not doing great in NIL. They have a $25 million NIL pool. But it's just so funny that the guy who we know, he's cheated his ass off and dominated football because of it. But here's Jimbo responding.
It's a shame that we have to do this. It's really despicable. It's despicable that somebody can say things about somebody and an organization. More importantly, 17-year-old kids. You're taking shots at 17-year-old kids and their families. That they broke state laws. They're all money. We bought every player on this group. We never bought anybody. No rules were broken. Nothing was done wrong. It was all and the way we do things, the ethics in which we do things. And these families, it's despicable that a reputable head coach could come out and say this when he doesn't get his way or things don't go his way. The narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen. And it's ridiculous. But when he's not on top, and the parity in college football he's been talking about, go talk to coaches who coach for him. You'll find out all the parity. Go dig into wherever he's been. You can find out anything. And it's a shame that you got to sit here and defend 17-year-old kids and families and Texas A&M because we do things right. We're always going to do things right. But we're always going to be here. We're doing a heck of a job. These coaches have done a great job. Our players have done a great job. The whole organization of recruiting people. It's despicable that we got to sit here at this level of ball and say these things to defend the people of this organization, the kids, 17-year-old kids and their families. It's amazing. Some people think they're God. Go dig into how God did his deal. You may find out about a guy that a lot of things you don't want to know. We built him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past or anybody that's ever coached with him. You can find out anything you want to find out, what he does and how he does it. And it's despicable. It really is. And it's a shame we have to sit up here and have this conversation about things we do. And it's personal to us. Yes, it is. It's personal to A&M. It's personal to our players. It's personal to our coaches and everybody involved. And I know the guy. Know him really well. It's amazing that we're allowed to do those things. It's really despicable. And I hate it for our players who are coming here, who did things the right way, have done things the right way, and will continue to do things the right way. I apologize to you that people insult you publicly the way they're doing it. And our fans, I apologize to you guys for people saying those things about Texas A&M. But promise you this, there are no violations. There are nothing wrong. It's the second time we've had to do this with grown men who don't get their way and want to pout, throw a fit, and act up. Just go ask all the people who work for him. You'll know exactly what he's about. I always said this. My dad always told me this. When people show you who they are, believe them. He's showing you who he is.
How about it? How about it? I mean, narcissist, God, czar. Pretty strong words. Very strong words. And then basically challenging people, which, again, nothing that most that us that work in the media, we already know. Go check out his background. If you think that Alabama wasn't cheating, you're out of your freaking mind. Do they have to cheat for everything? No, not everything. But if you think that they're not, you're crazy, because those other teams are cheating. You think no team in the SEC is cheating? Ha! They're the king of cheating. They challenge each other. Who can cheat the best? Do you think Alabama's beating all those teams and not cheating? Hell no. And for him, for Nick Saban, of all people, it's just like he said, when he's not on top, he's a baby. He's not getting his way. It's amazing. He has to be a narcissist to be that idiotic to make those statements from the position that he's been in. He said, here's one of the comments from Nick Saban. We were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first, Saban said. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, likeness. We didn't buy one player. I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it. So you're telling me that not one Alabama player has an NIL deal? You're telling me that not one Alabama player is getting paid?
Nick Saban was the very first head coach to announce a player to have $1 million NIL deal without even throwing a pass in college football yet.
Exactly. And that just proves the whole point. It's great when it goes his way. But he finished second to somebody and is pitching a bitch fit over that. I mean, yes, he is not. He is worried about maintaining that being king of the mountain.
How long until we see a Mike Krzyzewski-esque Nick Saban retirement tour? Because of being fed up with all of this NIL stuff, evidently.
It's not being fed up with NIL. It's being fed up with not being able to control the narrative, not being able to control
because of NIL, though.
Yeah. Yes. It is going to level the playing. It's going to level the playing field for the big teams. I think that it's going to help out the bigger teams. It's going to help them not allow Alabama to be the dominant program. From going forward, once this thing hits a few years in NIL, college football at the top, and they're going, and this is another conversation, but there's going to have to be a line of demarcation and separation for even amongst Division I football programs. It's not the same. The bottom of Division I is not the same as the top of Division I. It's not even close. It's far enough apart that it's a different division in my mind. I mean, it's 1 and 1A. Seriously.
What are the odds that down the road, and like I said, we don't need to go down this rabbit hole, especially before break, but how long until we see an NFL-style AFC versus NFC between the Power 5 teams? It's no longer the Power 5. It's just two main divisions.
That's probably coming. But I read an article the other day, a great article. Gosh darn it. I think it was in The Athletic, regarding the first proposed super conference. And remind me to get on this again later because it's a great story. And guess who the first conference that tried to become a super conference was?
Is it not the SEC?
No, not even close. The old Metro Conference, which consisted of Louisville, Cincinnati, Memphis, Tulane, Florida State. It was a basketball conference. And Raycom, they went to Raycom, who was back then the big time TV partner, and said, hey man, we want to grow. What to grow? So they came back with the super conference of 16 teams and adding it. And I'll have to go back and pull this article up. It's amazing because they couldn't get enough support to pass it. But people like Louisville and the other people, they knew that was the future. And so they didn't do it. And within months, Florida State is in the ACC. Other schools have gone, and boom. Not only does the Metro not become the first super conference, they implode, basically. But they could have been the first super conference with teams like Syracuse as well. So we got to take a break. Lots more to talk about. We'll get back to the super conference talk, as well as the Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban. We didn't get to finish that up. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg. If you need that championship smile, as we all do, go see Dr. J. He'll take care of you today. Reynolds Family Dentistry. Back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
All right, Zach says he's logging on right now.
Actually, I may continue that talk with Zach.
Yeah, it would be good. Because honestly, we've got 2 sets of Indiana clips today already with Alec. If you just want to, if we can use those for that stuff.
I'm trying to.
Here he is.
Hey, Zach, how are you, brother?
Sorry about that. We forgot to send the bottles to baby's daycare today, so I had to run them up to.
Hey, how's the formula shortage? Has that impacted you?
No, he only feeds, so thankfully it won't hit us, or at least it hasn't yet. I mean, he's 4.5 months old, so he'll be eating solid food soon. But
how and why is there a baby formula shortage?
I think what there's a couple things I've read. There was a big recall, which really hurt. I know there have been some production issues because people stockpiled at the beginning of the pandemic and then stopped buying formula because they were going through what they'd stockpiled. And so then formula companies were getting kind of uneven like estimates, because you have to estimate how much you're going to produce like months in advance. And I think they kind of underproduced. Then there was this recall, and not trying to get political, but I think some stuff that got torn down during the Trump administration has made it harder to import it, particularly from Canada. And so it's kind of been this collision of different factors that like some were controllable, some weren't, but it's wound up where it's very difficult to deal with.
What else is new with you?
Nothing really. I mean, this is the quietest time of year for us. There's nobody here, and
yep, it's a quiet weekend too. There's nothing going on the AAU circuit. Unfortunately, it picks back up next weekend during Indy 500 weekend.
It's always got to come back in droves.
The 500 is just chews up all the oxygen at our where we're concerned right now. So there's nobody on campus. There's nothing to write about, and it's kind of nice because all of our focus is on that right now.
Yes, it is nice. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, here we go.
Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Friday. It is a beautiful one, getting you ready for the weekend. Brought to you by Remax Realty, our good friend Cheryl Sizemore. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, reach out to her. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Please welcome Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Zach, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm not bad. How about you?
I am ready for a relaxing weekend. It is one of those rare times, you mentioned off air, not a lot going on this weekend, so taking advantage of that. AAU is off. Next weekend, we've got AAU back in addition to the Indianapolis 500 all week, so it comes back in abundance. But we've got plenty of entertainment right now. The Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, Deion Sanders thing has just really been funny to me because so many people were concerned that NIL was going to cause discord among players. And I was like, well, that's dumb because this is just life. But we see it's certainly causing discord among coaches with Nick Saban not happy about getting the shorter end of the stick of which he is used to controlling, but called out a couple of guys and then they responded in great haste. And now he's kind of backpedaling a little bit, but it's just funny to see that. I think he froze on us. Yeah, we'll have to get him back on.
Zach, if you can hear us, just drop out and come back in.
But yeah, it's Jimbo wasted no time just eviscerating and he used to coach with and for Nick Saban. He's back.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. I got a lot of the gist of what you were talking about, and I think I heard you say something about basically coaches struggling with this because it's something they can't control, and I think that's
and particularly Coach Saban, who it's cracked you up, who has controlled basically. The recruiting mantra.
But it's. I mean, you will. I think you hit at the core of it there, though. You will not find a more intense group of control freaks than college coaches. Like college football, they cannot operate in a world where they don't have both hands on everything. And now all of a sudden here comes this thing that is so layered and so amoebic. It's changing forms all the time. There's no one set of rules because some states have laws and some states don't. And by the way, a lot of those laws are getting repealed and replaced. Like Alabama just did that. Tennessee, I believe, just either amended or replaced their initial NIL law with one that says that schools can help facilitate deals to athletes, which is quite literally one of the core tenets of what the NCAA said this could never be about. But everybody knows the NCAA is not going to fight anything, or at least everybody believes. Let me rephrase that. Everyone believes the NCAA is going to be very gun shy about fighting anything like that or trying to enforce anything where they feel like they might get, sort of dragged back into court or overridden by state law, whatever. So, I mean, it has rattled so many coaches. And I mean, you might as well have told these coaches that like the tight end gets to call plays. Like that is how fundamentally shaken I think they are. And it's just because this is something they don't feel like they can control. Because it is so strange. It is so foreign to college athletics, and everybody's trying to figure out how it works. But while we do that, we really are all kind of doing it together. Like, I mean, I include coaches and administrators. And while we figure out how to do that, you've got a lot of coaches out there that, quite frankly, are just really struggling to accept the reality that this is something, that they can't just spend an extra 5 hours at work every week and fix this somehow. And some are handling it better than others. I saw Mike Bray's quote the other day that was basically just like, we get paid a lot of money. We just need to shut up and figure it out. Like, we need to stop complaining and figure it out. But
exactly.
The particularly extreme, to your point about Nick Saban, the particularly extreme personalities are probably the ones that are going to have the biggest problem with this. Because like I said, in terms of taking control away from coaches, you really might as well have just told Nick that his offensive tackle gets to call the plays. And he won't, like, he might be drawing him up in the dirt for all you know. Like, you don't get to see him. You're just going to find out what happens when the ball snapped. That's where college athletics, and particularly big time college athletics, is right now.
But it just amazes me to see, and what you said is exactly correct. Nick Saban is probably the ultimate control freak. It's partly why he's been so successful, but also part of why he's been so successful is probably some means of recruiting that are not exactly on the up and up. And when he called Jimbo Fisher out, he didn't allude to it. He just said, go check it out. He repeatedly said, go check out his background. And so he basically said that he had done that. He called out Deion Sanders, not by name. This is the guy he does commercials with, but he called that program out. Both of these coaches have come back to say that, none of this stuff is as true as Saban has labeled it. I'm sure that Texas A&M, there's truth to some of that because they've got a $25 million NIL war chest. So,
and A&M, I mean, all jokes aside about the price of oil and the price of natural gas being good for Texas A&M right now, because of where a lot of their booster dollars are. Like, I mean, A&M, to be fair to them, was out ahead of this. I mean, like, I think they had basically something, what we now call a collective, from like day one. And what's interesting is I don't think, like, Jimbo was sort of defending this idea of like, I'm not a cheater. Don't call me a cheater. These kids aren't cheaters. Don't call them cheaters. I don't think Saban ever used the word cheat. And I think the one part of this, I'd have to go back and read all his comments again. But the one part
he said
this,
bought. I think he said bought was the only.
But he didn't say cheat. And like, I think that's, I don't think that's by accident. Like, and I know he's tried to walk some of it back, and I don't think he's ever going to. I mean, certainly don't think Jimbo and his fan base are ever going to are ever going to forget that. But you know, the in the wider sense, I don't think it was unintentional that Saban never used the word cheat, because I don't think he's accusing anyone of cheating. I think what he's doing is saying this system is, you know, I mean, for lack of a better term, you know, obviously in the least artful way possible, I think what he's saying is this system is freaking me out. And, you know, the idea, obviously, listen, talk to anybody. I mean, plenty of people on the record, and, you know, certainly a lot, even more people off the record. Everybody knows that stuff like this was going on everywhere. Like, let's not be naive. It wasn't just Alabama or the SEC or the South. It was going on everywhere. But now you don't have to hide it. Like, I enjoyed a piece I read a couple of weeks ago, and I'll just have to trust the reporter who wrote it, that their sources are good. But they quoted someone basically claiming to be what we colloquially referred to as a bag man, the person that was dropping money to recruits. I think this person was identified as being associated with an SEC school, and they were basically just quoted as saying, like, I don't know what to do now because they don't need me anymore. Like, you know, and again, like it frazzles coaches because they can't control it. And certainly there's an extent to which, if that sort of thing was going on around your school before, you didn't want to control it. Like, the whole idea of the bag man was that you never met him. You didn't know him. You didn't follow him on Twitter. You'd never have your picture taken together, anything like that. You didn't want to know about that. But now that this stuff is out in the open and it's legal, and we're still trying to figure out where the guide rails are, where the lanes are and where the lanes end. But you have to be aware of it. You have to be in some level of control of it, but you can't, because it's just, I mean, everybody has used the phrase "Wild Wild West" to me in the last 2 weeks. I've been working on a story about this, and that phrase has just come up over and over and over again. So,
yeah, and it's not going to change. Because what can the NCAA even do right now? They're trying to survive, in my estimation, as an organization. They're just trying to survive, and because they're going through a massive change, because a big part of them is not needed. It was toothless. And I'm not blaming the NCAA for where everything is, because that all lies at the hands of the school presidents, which is the NCAA. But what's the NCAA even going to be able to do going forward? They're seem more concerned with trying to survive than police.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of this is one of the core sort of issues everyone's trying to sort through. And I mean, we could have an hour-long discussion about just this specifically, but I do think there is kind of one important thing to say kind of at the front end of it, which is there's definitely been this running commentary among some coaches, among some members of the media, looking at maybe other coaches, other members of the media, player advocates, and, activists and people like that, and saying, well, this is what you wanted. You wanted players to be paid. Now you got it. And look at the chaos you've caused. Let's be very clear-eyed about this. This is happening because government entities are telling the NCAA it has to. Like, state laws supersede NCAA rules. From the moment California passed that NIL law last year, and every state in the South thought, we cannot get left behind on this, and started passing their own. Like, the issue was taken out of the NCAA's hands. And the NCAA had to do something, because it couldn't allow a world where you could only practice name, image, and likeness policy in certain states, not just for competitive fairness, but because it would be the easiest case in the world for an athlete in a state that didn't have an NIL law and therefore wasn't allowed to participate in NIL activities to sue the NCAA and say, well, hang on, you're telling us we can't do it because we don't have a law. That's not how this works. That's not how this is supposed to work. And the other piece of this, the other big piece of this, is the Alston decision. And the Supreme Court coming down 9-0, a Supreme Court that, again, not trying to get political, clearly has some ideological divisions. Getting that group of people to say unanimously that that basically this antitrust challenge to NCAA authority is legitimate. And then having one of those people, and I know the NCAA said, oh, Brett, no one signed on to Brett Kavanaugh's opinion. It was just his. He was isolated. No, I'm sorry. That is one of 9 Supreme Court justices in the highest court of the land, quite literally dismantling the concept of amateurism in modern college athletics. The reason all of this has happened is because entities with much more authority in our society than the NCAA have stepped in and said it's going to have to happen. And that's why the NCAA has lobbied so hard, and obviously to no avail, for a federal law, because it solves a lot of the NCAA's problems. It puts all this in somebody else's backyard. I don't think that's going to happen. Certainly, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And so what you have instead is a lot of people sort of saying, well, this model's clearly not workable because it's chaos, because, it's impossible to get our arms around it. We can't just do this forever. So we're starting to put other things on the table. There are a lot of people who believe that college football will be spun out of college athletics as we know it within the next 5 years. 2026 is when the playoff, the playoff contract comes up. Maybe by 2026, the Power Five go off and do their own thing. And the NCAA is just not involved in football at all. But then if that happens, does basketball get pulled away? Maybe. Because the Power Five might look at it and say, well, that's $1 billion a year contract essentially, and we can do something that a network will pay us $1 billion for that'll be commensurate to that. So we're just going to step away now. We're going to do our own thing. And to your point about the NCAA just trying to survive, I do feel for the people that work in that office. They've been put in a bad position by years of myopic decision making, years of trying to kick this can down the road. Anyone could have seen this coming. Anyone could have seen not just the legal challenges, but the political environment where whichever side of the political spectrum you fall on, you're going to see this as either a restriction of free trade or an exploitation of workers. We could have seen all this coming. And I don't know if the NCAA gets out ahead of this 10 years ago, if anything is tangibly different in the end. If we can go through some Doctor Strange multiverse and we can play through every single possibility to the end and, find out that there's one world where the NCAA rides through all this in its present form. But I do know that a lot of the headaches that have been created today by this chaos have come because no one was forward thinking on this, and they didn't get into it until they were dragged into it kicking and screaming. And now they have been basically superseded by a variety of larger authorities that have just sort of taken the decision out of their hands.
Yeah. And you mentioned the states. That's been a problem because you've got differences. Nothing is the same. Now there are some states venturing into high school NIL, which that is can get crazy. That could probably lead to a lot of guys going, not that there's not people going to prep schools and things like that already, but that could probably lead. And we've seen what is it? The program that brings kids in and offers to pay for their college and whatnot. But I can see programs like Montverde and La Lumiere and those places getting deals with people and making it permanent, so where they can really bring in the big guy, which they already are, but to fortify that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I do think there will be an element. There will be an extent to which it's sort of well, a lot of that's already happening, and okay, if suddenly money's involved, that takes it to a new level. But number one, there's only so many spots on the IMG basketball team. There's only so many spots on the air basketball team. And already these kids were being sold on the idea of you're going to play in bigger games, you're going to get better apparel, you're going to get access to different things and whatever else. And then what I think that the retort will be, well, what about the fly-by-night places that that tell lies and throw this stuff out there just to get and wind up exploiting kids. Well, guess what? That's also unfortunately already happening. And so, yes, it would become more intense if money was involved, but it still comes back to the same core issues, which are just, we need to figure out how we're going to govern this. And if that ultimately evolves into revenue sharing with athletes, then it ultimately evolves into revenue sharing with athletes. There are a lot of smart people that think that that's where we're going. And obviously that would dramatically change college athletics. If all of a sudden you have to share a lot of your revenue with your athletes, you don't have as much money for scholarships. You don't have as much money for coaches' salaries. But maybe some of that needed to come down anyway. I don't know. That's again.
I was going to say is some of that doesn't sound like a bad thing, but some of it is, but it just opens up a Pandora's box, and that's the thing. They don't want these guys to be employees because that opens up so much with insurance, with.
But then, again, the National Labor Relations Board may rule that athletes are employees. I mean, they have already given a sort of implicit acknowledgement of that idea. And so then if athletes can register, so that leads to all sorts of fascinating conversations about whether athletes can unionize, whether they can collectively bargain. Like collective bargaining would solve some of these problems. If you pull the athletes to the table and you say, we're going to, in the same way that we do in the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball, we say you're going to agree to play by these particular sets of rules. And if you break them, whatever it might be, tampering in free agency, drug testing policy, all sorts of different things, salary. Think about things as basic as salary structures, salary caps, things like that. That solves a lot of these problems. But right now it's sort of one of the reasons why this is chaos. And it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons why this is chaos is because we're trying to find a way that compensates athletes while still controlling them. That is something the courts have made it very clear is just not going to stand up.
I think college basketball, Division I, and then football each need their own commissioner, and then someone for the other sports. Instead of having a head of the NCAA, these are too big of behemoths on their own. Basketball is a behemoth. Football is already separated. So I think that they need someone directing at the top that focuses on each sport. And then I think these NIL deals, everyone should be sent to the conference at least. I don't think that's a bad idea. And I do agree with and to be fair, Mark Emmert said this, the NCAA stands by this this idea that the governance structure needs to be, and the reason it's being overhauled right now and the NCAA changing its constitution is partly because what's good for Division I isn't good for Division II anymore. The gaps have grown so wide that you can't possibly sort of impose the same general rules on everyone. But in the same breath, the idea of a conference commissioner or a czar of football or whatever only works if all the stakeholders empower that person. In the same way that the NCAA would have a lot more power if the college presidents and chancellors would just sort of make that person a lot more unilaterally powerful, but they don't. That has been by choice, that the NCAA has wanted more decentralized authority, more sort of, collective governance, and for the NCAA president to be someone who is essentially acting at the will of his members, his or her members. It's obviously, we can fantastic to have a female NCAA president, but whoever that is needs to be empowered. Whoever the commissioner of college basketball is needs to be empowered by the people that ultimately, make those decisions, fund the sport, etc. And those people have not shown a clear interest in it. And again, a lot of this is going to wind up with people getting their hands forced for them. There is a bill in committee in the California legislature right now that would require revenue sharing. And if that gets passed, that's, that is NIL times 10. And it would be, in all likelihood, it would be you'd see a very similar response from a number of other football-minded states.
because they would just feel like they couldn't get left behind. And state laws will always supersede NCAA authority because the NCAA is just an association we constructed to govern college athletics. It does not have legal force and effect against. It can fight laws, I suppose. It can lobby against them, but if the law is passed, then at that point, that's not, it's not the media making decisions or players making decisions. That is the law saying this is now required.
I know we've gone long. I got to get you out of here. DJ Derrick Jackson's waiting, but I have to ask the obvious. I never thought that he was going to leave, but now with Trace Jackson Davis getting COVID, not being able to participate in anything, that surely just has to cut any shot that he could have had of being drafted by anybody. I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you feel for him. I think that the combine, I think he's had some workouts already, but the combine was kind of that moment when he was going to be able to get in front of everybody. He was going to be able to test and measure and compete against other, top prospects and, interview with basically any team that wanted to talk to him. That felt like the moment that was really going to sort of make or break this process for him. And now he's obviously missed a lot of it. And my understanding is I don't think he's going to be able to participate at all in Sunday. You would have to think this would kind of throw a wrench into a potential path for him to be drafted high enough, comfortable enough to stay in the draft. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it does feel like it increases the chances of him coming back to Indiana. Again, I think you hate it for him. And even if he was going to come back all along, you still would have wanted him to have that experience because it would, I think, inform him in ways to become a better player. But not losing that opportunity does feel like it's going to be difficult for, a player like him who was probably right on the fringe to kind of overcome in terms of convincing teams, kind of to invest in him with draft capital. And one way or another, we will find out soon. He has 10 days after the combine ends, which is June 1st is the NCAA deadline because the combine ends May 22nd. So we'll find out, within the next 2 weeks, whether or not he's coming back. And if he comes back, Indiana's got a full roster and they sail into the offseason full speed. If he doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have any names or anything, but you wouldn't be shocked to see Indiana maybe jump into the portal and see who's still around, who still might be interested. Because there are still uncommitted prospects that were in there before May 1st that would be eligible immediately. But, as things stand, obviously this is definitely a body blow to kind of the idea of Trace being able to get that sort of commitment from a team to say, if you're there when we pick in the second round or even the first round, I guess, we're going to take you.
Make sure you give him a follow. He is Zach Osterman, the IU insider for the Indy Star. Appreciate you as always, brother. I hope you have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks so much for having me, Jim, as always.
You bet. Zach Osterman, again, give him a follow from the Indy Star and be a subscriber. I am. We've got lots more coming up. Derrick Jackson joins us next. He's going to brighten your day. Get your weekend started, baby. Brought to you by RE/MAX. Make sure you reach out to Cheryl at Indy Home Pros if you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington, DJ
Jim, what's up, baby? I was enjoying that NIL conversation, man. It has been a hot topic all week by two of the biggest names in college coaches and college football.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that. Your boy Dion, he said, "Hold up, hold up."
Yeah, man. I'm surprised. I think they've probably kind of overstepped it, but I can tell you one thing: Indiana won't have NIL problems. That I can tell you.
Yeah,
we won't have NIL problems. We got bigger fish to fry with
boom.
Us doing a job here this coming season. Good to see the guys get a break, and get back in it when Big Ten Media Days come around. We'll see what happens.
That's right.
Yep. And you ought to come up for that, man. It's going to be at Lucas Oil.
I'm coming, man. I am coming. John and we had a conversation. I'll be off the air with you guys for about a month or two, but that's okay. I mean, I can totally understand that, man. Because
come up to that, and you can just sit in and co-host that day.
I need, when you get the agenda. I'm sure the schedule has been set.
When I get the agenda, I will and the credentials, I will send in and get you credentialed. So
yeah, let me do that, man.
Set.
Do that, man. Come and sit in with you, man. Spend a couple of days. It's going to be where's it going to be? In Chicago as always?
No,
Indianapolis.
It's Lucas Oil, baby. They moved it to Lucas Oil last year, and it was phenomenal because everything takes place on the field.
Right.
We've got the radio row set up right here, and then everything else is out in front of you. The stage is over there, everything, the little mini breakout stages. It's awesome deal now. The Chicago thing, they've got to end that.
Yep. All right, listen, I'll be more than happy, man, to do that, man. I'm gonna set that up, get that agenda. I'll book me a flight and get me a nice little spot there in Indy, man, and come up there and hang out for a couple of days and talk some football with these guys, man.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be, man. Be great.
Yeah, Tom Allen on the other day.
Yeah, I know that, man. I was like, wow, man, that was my opportunity to say, hey, coach, I'm here, baby. I'm ready, man.
Well, I was trying. It didn't work out schedule wise, and then
it wasn't on during the live show. It was pre-recorded.
Yeah, it was recorded. But then it turns out
10 seconds.
We were actually supposed to do it in his office.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this absolutely gorgeous Friday. Wherever you are, if you're down in Evansville, listening on the Ref 97.7 or Marengo 89.1 or wherever all around the 22 states. I know we have listeners. Appreciate you. Derrick Jackson joining us now. How are you, DJ?
I'm good. I noticed one thing about you, Jim. I remember a couple of months ago, not even that long ago, I see you wrapped up in a sweater and a hat. Now I see you in the short sleeves and no hat, man. How's the weather up there?
Short sleeve, baby. It's getting better. Finally, we got through that. April was just terrible, but it's here, man. It's here. It finally made its arrival. The Derby is come and gone. The Indianapolis 500 is coming up next, which means May. So and then we're going to be into summer, man. I don't want to rush it too much.
Right.
I mean, we just got out of this deal. I'm like, let's slow her down a little bit, but lots going on, lots to get to. But we one of the big topics, as you heard, is the fun. Oh man, yesterday, your old buddy Deion Sanders, he wasn't called out, but his school, he basically was called out by Nick Saban, not nearly as badly as he called Texas A&M out, and Jimbo Fisher eviscerated Nick Saban. I mean, just eviscerated him and just said, hey, he called him everything but the cheater straight out and just kept saying, go check his background. Go check his background. Go check it. He's basically just telling you because he's there. He knows. He saw it. He was with him. But
I can tell you, I think what's going to happen, man. I mean, I think some people are going to start doing some digging just because of that. I think Coach Saban made Coach Prime said, he made a left turn. He's a pretty straight shooter, but you never know. But to sit back and say a program bought all of its players, I mean, that had to make Jimbo Fisher livid. As a head coach of his program, I would have been livid too. Coach Prime handled it a different way. Coach Saban didn't use a player by name, but I mean, Jackson State is now just coming on the scene. So when you say you got a player last year that you got for $1 million, I mean, there's only one player that comes to mind. So he did everything to name him. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just funny seeing that go play off in public between two big time. Well, I'd say three big time coaches because even though Jackson State is not a big time program yet, Deion is certainly made them a name and created a buzz there. So, and then the fact that Deion and Saban make those Aflac commercials together. That duck ain't gonna be too happy next time, I bet.
Well, I want to see, man, how many Aflac insurance holders are going to cancel their policies, see what they're going to say, see what the stakeholders are going to say, because I'm sure Aflac is going to have to do some damage control on this one.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That's a great point that I never thought of. It cannot be good to see your two spokesmen arguing over calling each other what they're doing. So
I think Coach Prime, he softened the blow a little bit by saying, listen, I still love the guy. I still respect the guy. He's a guy that pretty much was shooting straight, and he just made a left turn. And everybody make mistakes, but Aflac is going to have to jump in real quick and do some damage control really, really quickly. And, they're going to have to springboard back from this.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that, but it's just going to be funny. I can't wait. I did see that, and I'm trying to get back to that page, that he did issue an apology to Jimbo Fisher, but I'm wondering, has he done so to Deion Sanders?
Yeah, he is. I think a general apology that went out for. I think he apologized for his statement that he made, and I think he was saying that they were taking. He's not calling out the schools. He was saying he's calling out the system. But you can't say that, Coach Saban, when you by name said Jackson State. You called out Jackson State. You didn't say, hey, listen, I got a problem with the NIL system, and I got a problem with the way they're doing things at a number of different schools, which I'm not going to make name the names. He would have been okay. But then he said, okay, he said, listen, Texas A&M verbatim bought all of his players. Jackson State bought a player for $1 million. So, I mean, he called him out by name. You know what I'm saying? And I think he let the heat of the moment get him to the point to where, the set commissioner had to reprimand both. And I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, you got to reprimand both him and Jimbo Fisher. But I agree with Jimbo Fisher being really, really upset. I would have been too.
Yeah, just because he was singled out, not because it wasn't true. But it's coming from someone who does the same damn thing, and he knows it. So that's what is funny. But the SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, reprimanded both of them. But who cares? You reprimand them. Oh, big deal. Reprimand.
Yeah,
what the hell does that mean?
Reprimand them in their pockets. That's what you need to do. And here's the other thing. I'm going to tell you
because both of them make over $10 million a year. You want to reprimand them, hit them.
You hit them in the pocket. You know exactly where it hurts. And I can tell you right now, man, it's going to open up other investigations. Here's what NL is going to do. It's going to start schools, man. I'm telling you,
there's nobody to do it though. See, that's the problem. There's no one there.
They got a couple of players already that said, hey, listen, man, I think it was Antonio Cromartie said, hey, listen, they offered me $10,000 just to come on a visit.
Yeah. But there's no one there to monitor that. That's the biggest problem.
Man, somebody wants to go after Coach Nick Saban's head. They'll listen. They will start digging, man. Trust me.
Nick Saban a day after said, I should never have singled anyone out. That was a mistake. I apologize for that. Said Saban, who also explicitly referenced Deion Sanders' Jackson State program and Miami basketball. Sanders spoke with ESPN saying both coaches need to have a public discussion. Let's talk publicly and let everybody hear the conversations, Sanders told Anscape on Thursday. You can't do that publicly and call privately. No. I still love him. I admire him. I respect him. He's the magna cum laude of college football, and that's what it's going to be because he's earned that. But he took a left when he should have stayed right. I'm sure he'll get back on course. I ain't tripping.
I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen. And like I said, Dion's a very, very smart guy when it comes to our marketing. You see what he did when he said, listen, he didn't turn around. All he said was, I'm going to address the lie that Coach Saban told. He didn't bash him. He said, I still love him. I admire him. I respect him. He's the magna cum laude. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think, if anything, Aflac is going to fire Nick Saban.
Well, I don't know. I bet not. But Fisher called Saban despicable 6 times in in his 10 minutes. 6 times he used the word despicable amongst other things, but he said, "You can call me anything you want to call me. You ain't calling me a cheat. I don't cheat and I don't lie," Fisher said, "because I learned that when I was a kid. If you did, the old man slapped me upside the head. Maybe someone should have slapped Saban." Woo!
Man, yeah, I tell you. And notice how many sponsors Jimbo Fisher has versus Nick Saban. Come on, man. Remember what happened to Tiger Woods when he made a left turn? He made a harder left turn than Coach Saban did. But listen, man, and I don't want to put this into the mix too much. But listen, he called out a historically black college and university. He called out a program publicly. Okay, and the era that we're living in now, the world is more sensitive or getting a little bit more sensitive to things like that. And it's not a racist issue, but all I'm saying is that he called out an HBCU. Now, was that his intent?
I don't think so.
I don't think it was his intent, but the fact is, listen, if I spit on the producer's shoe, might not be my intent, but listen, bro, you spit on the producer's shoe, you're not being on the show ever again. You see what I'm saying? You get my point, right?
It wasn't the camera guy's shoe. There's a difference.
Right. It's a difference. Yeah,
but I don't see Nick Saban going anywhere. But there's also no love lost. I was surprised that he threw Jackson State in there. I'm shocked because of him doing the commercials with Dion and with Jackson State not being a competitor of Alabama. He's competing head to head with Texas A&M.
Right.
So that makes more sense. Why throw any guy that you do a commercial with?
Can I tell you why? I'm gonna tell you why. Listen, and this is behind the scenes. He didn't have an opportunity to get Travis Hunter. I'm telling you, Travis Hunter, that young man was at the core of Nick Saban's ear yesterday or the other day. He didn't have White House, like you said, White House. He doesn't compete with Jackson State. Him and Dion they're co-spokespersons for one of the biggest insurers in the United States. Why go after Jackson State?
Well, that supports exactly what Jimbo Fisher said when he called him a narcissist and saying when he doesn't get what he wants and he's not at the top. So he didn't get what he wanted with that particular recruit and went on a rant about it.
Right, exactly, and that's what it was, man. And come on, and he only mentioned. Listen, when he referenced Texas A&M, he said they bought their whole team, all of the players. When he went to Jackson State, he referenced one player. He just didn't use that player by name. Okay, that's it. That's all he didn't do. So it did. He went after the player and NIL, and that's not going to look good. I'm trying to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised. You might be right, but I wouldn't be surprised if Affleck fires Nick Saban.
Yeah, I like I said, I doubt that comes because he's such a he's a god in Alabama, but
you're right, and you don't know the terms of his contract with Affleck. You know what I'm saying? You don't know, so we don't.
That's either here to there, and it really doesn't impact anything in regards. But I'm looking forward to reading a little bit more about the relationship with Saban and Fisher. When they were at LSU, that's when he was the offensive coordinator for him there, and also on that staff, Will Muschamp and Kirby Smart. How about that?
Right. Yeah, that's one heck of a staff, and all of them are head coaches, right?
Yeah, and there's probably more on there that I haven't found out about, but I'm to dig into that a little bit more and find out what all happened there. But that's those guys know where the bodies are buried.
Yeah, they do. And Jimbo Fisher,
you can't. That's the danger. You can't call out a Jimbo Fisher.
Nope.
Or a Lane Kiffin for that matter. I think that he's smart enough to not call Lane Kiffin out because Lane Kiffin don't give a crap, man. He says it as it is already.
Yeah, Mom always told me, be careful when you're picking up rocks. You don't know what's up under those rocks, brother.
We got to take a quick break. DJ, if you want to stick around, you're welcome to. We don't have that much time left in this show, but if you got to run, you got to run too.
Hey, no problem, brother. I will see you guys in a couple months. I need that agenda because I really want to come up there and hook up with you guys, man.
Don't worry. As soon as it comes out, I'll stick you on there, brother.
Okay, I love you guys. Take care, all right?
Derrick Jackson joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at BB's Market. BB's is your market no matter where you live, and your local meat shop, steakhouse, and caterer. You can reach them at visitbbsmarket.com. They've got over 35 varieties of brats. The sausages are incredible, the most incredible in-house made products. These meats are top of the line. You can order them, have them shipped to you. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to have to create an Indiana Sports Beat special. And to get you guys, tell me when we come back, we'll discuss it more. But I want to find out to put a package together. What would you like? I'll put a hat and visors in there, maybe some shirts, steaks. We'll put together the Hoosier something. But you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting.
All right, we'll have about 8 minutes left, that looks like. Maybe so.
All right. I got to come up. That's a good idea. I got to come up with a package.
Yep.
What would it be called?
For BB's Market?
Yeah.
Indiana Sports Meat.
Oh, that ain't bad. That ain't bad. But I still got to come up with different packages, like a steak package, like for a weekend tailgate package.
There you go. Southern Stone. Good week of shows.
Yep.
Good week of shows. Hey, one thing, and we can talk. I know we brought this up before, but I think one thing we should consider doing now that Friday, the last two segments are open, we should consider doing the callers, but they're not callers. They join the stream for a few minutes.
I tell you what would be best is if there was a place where they could call in and record it,
and
then you could play it. That would eliminate the need of.
I understand the merit of it, but at the same time, if they would have to do it during the show, which makes it a lot more difficult for me to keep track of it because that's one other thing I'm doing during the show. And if they did it before the show or at a different time, then what they're asking may not be relevant by the time we air it. I'm honestly surprised you're so worried about what they might say. I mean, people call shows all the time. If they say something wrong, I just edit it out, and they know better anyway. If they don't,
yeah. Well, for one thing, because I don't want it to be the same people.
No,
and
we could make it, or you could do it once a month if you get on.
Oh, okay.
All right, here we go.
If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this unbelievably gorgeous Chamber of Commerce Friday. I hope you're going to get out and enjoy it. Looks pretty good. Jim Coyle with you as always. Hope things are going well for you no matter where you are. Our good friends listening on the ref down in Evansville, 97.7 ESPN WREF, 89.1 WBRO as well in Ringo. And everywhere else, however, via podcast and YouTube. Tons of people on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. Hey, make sure you please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps us out immensely. I'm trying to, for BB's Marketplace, one of our sponsors that belongs to the WOW Club, WOW Network, they can ship anything to anywhere. And I know you guys, we've got people that listen all over the place, 22 states, 11 countries. So I'm thinking maybe putting together some packages, but what would you like in a package? 4 big pork chops and some other stuff, and a different one with steak, a different one with sausages and brats. I'm thinking about maybe a tailgate package, IU related. Maybe put in
here's a couple name suggestions. We've got
hats and visors.
Big Jim Sports Pack from 5 Lefts. We've got Jim's Meat Sweat starter package from Tony.
Oh man. How about
also we have an early line for Indiana football's opening week. 3-point favorites against Illinois.
That's shocking. Which means it's a tie. It's even since it's a home game for Indiana. But yours was the best one. Indiana Sports Meats.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised I thought of that. I usually don't have that kind of.
That's freaking funny, but that would just be the header and then have the packages underneath of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. That's going to be the name. That will be the header name, Indiana Sports Meats, and then packages underneath for that. So, you have to figure out, put in different packages, and then put in some IU stuff, especially for you guys that are coming up to tailgate, whatnot. Support those who support IU athletics, who support us. They allow us to bring you this content. So there's a reason why we'd like to see you guys support these people. But BB's has incredible food, man. And I just got a grill yesterday. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Not new to me. I went on Facebook Marketplace, found a nice Weber, smaller, 2-burner, perfect. Used it last night. Cooked a couple of hot dogs on there, a couple of Nathan's all beef hot dogs, just to get her started. Worked like a charm, baby. I'm happy. Now I got to get Indiana Sports Meats going.
If you were in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, how many could you devour?
3. 2 filled me up last night. These were the big fatties, man. I'm like,
I don't understand how those people do that. I know there's like a training you do or whatever, but
you stretch your stomach. I don't.
Yeah.
2 nights ago, I ate an entire pizza, which is not. It depends on the size of it, but it was still. I didn't eat the whole thing. I felt miserable. I can't imagine eating 72 freaking hot dogs and the buns, and the water that they use to go down with it.
Honestly, I don't get how people watch them do it. I think it's disgusting.
Tebow still like to have a visor. Well, we're going to get you taken care of. We're going to set that up, that packages, and you can order from Jim's Meat Sweats. That doesn't make sense.
I said it earlier. I mentioned that one earlier.
I know, but I'm looking at it. It doesn't make sense. Ross says another great week of shows. Hope we're not losing Dustin for the show. Yeah, that would be heartbreaking. We're not going to lose him for certain. It's just we'll have to see if he's going to be able to continue to co-host.
It's a matter of in what capacity will he still be involved.
Trust me, it's nothing against anybody else, but he is my absolute favorite because we just have a great rapport. He's just great. I'd love to have him on.
You can talk about a number of topics with him.
I'd love to have him on every day, to be honest with you. I wish he could join us every single day. But yeah, I didn't talk more about the Metro Conference. I meant to do that. Look that up. Go Google that. It's an interesting story. The Metro Conference was going to become the first super conference back in 1990. And it didn't come about, but shortly thereafter, everything went haywire. Man, what an incredible week. I can't thank everybody enough. A great day today. Thanks to Zach Osterman. Thanks to a Gator chasing Alec Lasley, Derrick Jackson, John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys, man. As always, you make it a great, great time. Please, if you are on YouTube, please hit the subscribe and like button. Otherwise, go out and have yourselves an absolute great weekend. Have fun, and we'll be back on Monday to do this all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.